I'm thrilled to be talking to you today as a professional mountain biker
Yeah.
and someone who has wide experience in the living foods lifestyle. And I would love you to share with us today your way on the living foods diet and the experiences you made around it. So maybe for people who don't know you already, how did this whole thing start?
It's kind of a long story. I tried to cut it short. In 2003, a friend of mine came to me and said he's going to die because he was diagnosed with liver cancer. And this time I didn't know a lot about raw foods or even not alternative medicine. I really didn't know a lot about health and not a lot about illness or sickness. And he somehow started my interest in this. I asked myself, why are the ones ill and the others are healthy? So I tried to find doctors, natural doctors, who could help him and who could reverse his cancer, because he didn't want to have the treating with chemicals. And so we decided to search someone. And at the end of this search, we found a natural doctor who already told us that it could be that it has something to do with nutrition. And so he started my journey, and at the end it got clear that he was misdiagnosed. It was not liver cancer. He had liver problems, but it was not cancer. But thus I got on the way to nutrition and to living foods, raw foods, all that stuff. And in 2007, guys like Brendan Brasher or Tim Van Orden were somehow my biggest inspiration to combine this raw food, living food thing with my old love. It was mountain biking. I used to be a professional athlete in the 1990s. And yeah, so I thought, well, what's going to happen if I combine it? What's going to happen if I do raw food as an endurance athlete? Because everyone in Germany, Europe, throughout Europe would have told me at that point it's totally impossible. It's not, you can't do it. And if you do it, you either will fall off your bike or you're going to die within 2 days, 2 weeks or 2 months. So now it's 3 years and I'm still living.
So, how were your experiences, and more exactly, what did you change in your diet, or maybe you would like to mention what you ate, or why people were so skeptical? Was your diet consisted of?
So I used to be, all the years up to 2007, I used to be a normal pizza and pasta eater. And yeah, all the foods we usually use in Germany. But then I started, first I started with fruits, mainly fruits. It was easier for me to change my diet because it was for me it was a very tough thing to do, to change my diet from the traditional food in Germany and also a lot of pizza, pasta and stuff like that to somehow not cooked, not a lot of grains, fruits, vegetables. And I did not have a lot of, I did not have experience myself, and I did not know anyone who is experienced and who could help me and who could tell me, well, okay, I know this phase, it's normal or it's not normal. It was all just by experimenting for myself. And so somehow I found my way through. But I'm still, at the moment, I'm still experimenting. And I'm not 100% in no way and in no area, in no field. I'm not the kind of guy who is telling others how they should behave or how they should eat or what they should do. I'm really just doing it because of the interest I have myself in this experiment. I don't try to force things anymore on others because I used to do this. I think a lot of raw foodists know this period of time where you think, okay, raw foodism is the only thing which heals the world and everyone has to do it, and if you don't do it, you are lost and you are dead and bad things will happen to you. But I don't think this is, one thing is I don't think this is true. Many people live with really strange nutritional or really strange nutrition. And they even get 100 or 120 perhaps, but there's also something else. You may call it spirit, you may call it your soul, whatever. So it's not only about what you're eating, it's also what you're thinking, how you behave, how you're reflecting, how your consciousness is or how your attention towards your consciousness is developing, I think. And for me, I used to think it's an experiment within nutrition, and now I realize it's not a nutritional experiment, it's more a consciousness experiment.
How did it express, and how were the experiences you made? Why do you say now it's a consciousness experiment?
At the beginning, it was like there were certain phases. The first phase was I wanted to convince everybody from raw food without doing it myself. The second one was I tried to do it myself and saw, whoa, that's not so easy. So this was some kind of a first shock, or I really realized, okay, it's really tough to do, and you can talk a lot, but doing is something totally different. And the third phase was that I realized that within the raw food movement, there are so many different ideas, which raw food style is the right one, that I got lost again. I got lost within a formerly known secure place where I thought, okay, when you're there, nothing else, there's nothing which could harm you, or everything is okay, the world is fine. If you're a raw foodist, everything is okay. But that didn't seem to be the truth. And so I reflected more and more, and I also took a step backwards. So you can easily change religions, that's not a problem. You can convert from Christianity to Buddhism or whatever, and you can change it. But the interesting phase is not the phase when you are a Christian or when you're a Buddhist, it's the phase in between, where you're changing your mind and where you're changing beliefs, and where you realize, okay, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Buddhism, I can step back and can look at both and see the certain patterns and certain ways of thinking and behavior. It's almost the same, so it's not so different. And you can argue and fight with people when you're a Christian, and you can argue and fight with people when you're a Buddhist. But perhaps you don't want to fight anymore. So, at least that was my experience. I didn't want to fight anymore. I was really tired of fighting. I did it long time and big times, and now I'm not fighting anymore. It's over. The fight is over.
It makes me think about your very successful tour around Germany, which in 2010, which was called the Transformation Diet, because that's what it, like when I'm listening to you, what it sounds like. It's a journey of transformation and even evolution, and evolution we are in this moment at this planet, right?
Yeah.
So what was your focus and experiences with this tour around Germany, talking about a diet which is, yes, a living foods diet, but much more than that, which is actually a diet which transforms you as a whole human being?
Mm-hmm. That was something I wanted to share on this tour, is that it's not about raw foods, not at all. That more about attention towards your consciousness, that it's more about the, going inside than going outside. So it's a more a shift in attention and realizing, really looking within you, realizing what's happening, being true to yourself, being honest, not lying again and again to yourself what's happening to you. But really, it's still a process for me. I'm not talking about this like a guru who has done it all and who knows everything and who is enlightened or something like that. I'm talking it from the perspective of an athlete who is still experimenting with it. And it's not over. And I think perhaps it never will be over. It's just an ongoing experiment. Perhaps it's going deeper, or it gets more and more intense or whatever, but I don't think it will end. For me, it's a lifelong task to be honest to myself, and I still lie to myself, and then things get messed up again, and I see, okay, I have to tell the truth, and most of the times the truth is very easy, and it's not so. We sometimes we think it's hard to be honest to others, but we have to start with ourselves, and then it gets easier also towards others. And this was also a thing with a tour, that I realized that many people also are not very attracted by the fact that all the raw foodists say you have to be 100%, and if you're not 100%, you're not a real raw foodist. I'm still not a real raw foodist. I'm perhaps 99% raw foodist, or 98.72. Who cares? It's not about percentage. It's about consciousness. And perhaps I'm going to be 100% raw foodist, and I'm really, at the moment I'm trying to expand my experience within this area. I'm really doing experiments almost no one would do. At the beginning of this year I said I want to stay 90 days green. So it's not smoothies with fruits or something like that, it's really only greens. Sprouts, vegetables, but only the leafy greens, a lot of green juices, all that stuff. And I'm pushing the limits. But I don't know if this is the right way, if this is how you do it and how you have to do it, or I just don't know it. And I also didn't start this experiment because I knew what will be the outcome. I started it because I thought, well, it's impossible. And every time you say, I don't believe this, that's not going to work, yeah, if you don't believe it, you have to try it. Because if you don't try it, you will never know. And this is just my attitude towards life. That if I don't know it, and if I'm interested, I don't say, well, this is not possible and you can't do that like this. I say, well, try. And I say to myself, okay, you don't know what will happen 90 days green? You don't know. So let's do it.
And you're actually having very surprising or very good results that also have been scientifically documented on,
yes. Yeah.
On maybe you want to share about that.
Yeah, that was very strange because it was in a period of time where I really thought, okay, well, this short time of raw foodism can't have an effect on my performance levels or on my performance at all. And then we went to a so-called, how do you call it, a performance diagnosis, or I don't know the exact name in English for it, but we just tested my performance on we started with 100 watts, and after 3 minutes or 4 minutes we increased 30 or 40 watts. It was on a bicycle in a laboratory. And they also measured the gases, not only the heart rate, but also the gases. And to cut the long story short, it was like a car when a car, the faster it's driving, the less fuel it needs. So this is totally, this was the graph at the end. So they looked at the graph and said, and these were doctors, I mean they studied this stuff, and they said, well, we don't have an explanation for it. It's like if a car needs less fuel, the faster it drives. So how can you explain stuff like that? It's not explainable because we live in this materialistic world where we think input, output, zack. But you had output, but you obviously it was not the input. There, you would say normally is needed. But what is normal? You can take the average of the population. This is perhaps normal, but it's just normal because everyone or almost everyone is like that. That doesn't mean that this is the natural state of a human being. You never know it. And that's what makes the journey very, very interesting. Because you just never know. It's always an experiment without knowing the outcome. That's like, I mean, this is science. This is scientific stuff. This is really great. No one did it. And we are all pioneers. I mean, it's like, and I don't say we, like the guys sitting in front of the camera. I mean, the whole RawFood movement at the moment, we are all pioneers. No one did this before. At least not since the invention of cooking. So, and the pioneers, what is the spirit of a pioneer? A pioneer goes there without knowing. He's the first, and he does not have fear. Because if he has fear, he goes back before he came to a point where you can say he's a pioneer. So you have to lose your fears. And this is the, let's say, spiritual dimension of such a journey. This is really interesting. And there comes another point when I was thinking about this pioneer stuff. I also realized that the pioneers, they don't have to fight each other. They don't have to argue. They just come back. And the people, and they even don't have to tell it because the people are already running towards them because they say, oh, well, how was it? And can you tell me more about it? And how is it behind the mountain? And can you bring me there? Can you go can you go with me there together? And they're automatically coming. They don't have to fight each other, and they don't have to, the one pioneer doesn't have to say to the other, but I'm the one who's right, because he walked another mountain. So, and the pioneers, like all human beings, we're like pieces of a puzzle. And we are perfectly fitting together. But we think we have to fight each other, or we have to cut this one here and the other one there, but then you don't get the whole picture at the end. You need the puzzle as it is. You shouldn't educate it in a certain direction and cut off that and try to make it believe that it is something different, not a puzzle piece, but something else. It's a puzzle piece, and it's perfectly fitting within the picture, but only if you leave it as it is and not if you try to change it. And this is the same with pioneers. There's no fight, and there does not have to be a fight. And you just can relax and say, okay, well, I'm available. I tell my story if you want to hear it. Nice. Perhaps I want to hear your story. And you're going to tell me your story. It's also very interesting. It's not this one-way communication anymore. It's, even though some people may be in front of the camera more often, it's also very interesting to see the guys and girls behind the camera and talk to them and what's your journey. This is a totally interesting journey together.
So what are your plans for this month, maybe coming months? Where do you want to take it? Or
yeah, I struggled a little bit with my 90-day green exercise or experiment. The last days, so I want to go back there, definitely, because within the first few days I realized that I have a lot more, not energy but power, some kind of, it's not the total amount of energy, but it's more like I really had the strength to push it hard within the training. That was really astonishing.
Like comparing pasta with green juice, for example?
Also like comparing raw food to green raw food. So this was really so the change from normal eating, whatever you call normal, to raw food was the same like the change from raw food to green raw food. Because I left away all the sugars, all fruits, the dried fruits. Only thing was I took a little bit of stevia, no honey, nothing at all. I just did it because I realized that I'm somehow addicted to sugar. And I wanted to test it if this is the case. Because I can tell you I'm not addicted to salad. That's not a problem. Because I know I can leave it away for 1 day and I don't have a problem. I can leave it away for 3 days and I also don't have a problem. But without fruits, that's a different kind of story. And I really have a problem with it. And there are emotional issues coming up and all this stuff. And so I realized that I have to try it. How is it to live without sugar? And this is an experiment I mean, I struggled the last 4 days. Was not green raw food, but I'm going back to it, and I started again and I do it again. And in spring I want to do the next test. It's I don't know if it's 90 days or whatever, a longer period of time, 30 days, perhaps only eatable wild foods. So mainly wild herbs. I have to try it because the reports I got from people who are very skilled, who do also educate others how to eat wild herbs and what to do with them and so on. They really talk about miraculous healings, like they don't have any cavities anymore and no cancer and stuff like that. And I'm really, really interested what it does for my body as an endurance athlete. So, how much energy will I have then? Yeah.
Because what you're saying means that actually we would have to redefine calorie or redefine where our energy comes from, because you seem to have tremendous energy with green juice and having no problem having no solid carbohydrate like
Yes.
bread or pasta or what we usually think is the stuff the energy is made out of to make you go up the mountain.
Yeah. There's one very important thing I have to tell you. My weight was all the time the same, no matter what I ate. So I'm quite tall. I'm 191 centimeters, and my weight was 72 to 74 since I'm 18. And I only could raise my weight when I didn't do any sports anymore. I raised it to 94. And so after that, 6 months of marathon training for running a marathon, and the 20 kilos were gone again. And it was down at 76 or 74. So that's just because, I just tell you that because people are saying, well, you're so thin, and obviously that comes from the raw food. No, I know it's not from the raw food. I'm a type like this. I'm just very slim. And the very interesting thing is that I don't lose any weight anymore on raw food. So that I can do whatever I want. Training sessions like 6 hours, training 3,000 or even 4,000 meters in altitude difference. And it's just, there's nothing happening to my weight. And I'm not eating so much. It's more like the quality of the food gets better and better. I try to get better quality, and the best quality is wild food. This is, for me, it's very obvious. yeah, and so I'm still experimenting on that, and I really don't think calories are relevant in any way anymore for me. It's I don't think this is the stuff we made of and we take our energy from. I think energy comes from something very much different. It may be something like biophotons, which they already can measure since not only 6 years, they can measure it for 20 years now or even longer. And it's a German guy who invented it and who discovered it. He's called Fritz Albert Popp. He's not so famous here in Germany, but he's known worldwide. And yeah, I'm really fascinated by this kind of story, because then you also come to prana and chi. What is it? Yeah, perhaps the biophotons. And also people who tell you they can photograph the aura. So what can it be? Perhaps the light you're emanating. So I don't know it, but it's more, for me this kind of concept is more, how do you say, more loving, more, I'm not a machine where you put fuel into here and there comes the energy. I'm just, I don't look at myself like this. I'm for sure I'm more complex than that.
So we can look forward to exciting results in season 2011 with your wild herbs, and yeah, we really look forward to hearing more about that and how those experiments are going. You're also doing your own YouTube TV channel where people can follow you, and you have a website.
Website is called rawpower.de, and up to now it's only in German. And Raw Power TV is blog.rawpower.de, so people can follow me also on Twitter. They will find me with my name, Stefan Hine. They will find me at Facebook, and I try to not only to be present as good as possible and to be available, but also to be as honest as possible. So please don't be shocked if you read a message like that I ate a pizza today, because that happens, and if it happens, I'm honest and I'm not hiding it, because I think we had it a long time that the so-called experts in the open field and the people were looking at, and they didn't tell the whole truth about their experiment. And I'm here to tell you the whole truth. I don't have a problem with 100% raw foodists, it's okay. But I also don't have a problem if I ate pizza one time a month. I don't think that is what it's all about. I try to be as authentic as possible and keep going and keep experimenting on it, because it's really fascinating stuff. I mean, this is, for me there's nothing else which is as interesting as where does your performance come, where does your health come, where does your well-being come from, where does all that stuff which is fundamental to your life, to your feeling happy, so that everything is okay with you, where is it coming from? We don't know. We still have to experiment on it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you that people can so easily connect with you. Great. And you're also the initiator of the World Raw Food Day.
Yes.
In 2010.
Yes.
Would you like to share about that?
Sure. 2009 there came this idea, every movement has its own World Day, why don't we? So I just made up this name, and at the beginning it was, I didn't know what to do with it, because it was just a domain, and had no ideas how it's going to work. And then I think, when was it? 10 months before World Raw Food Day 2010, there came the idea that we should do a potluck marathon. And now I'm really fascinated by this, because it's not about me, it's not about World Raw Food Day, it's about all of us coming together at one day, realizing also that we are not only a big community, but that we are people who love to gather together and have fun, and that it's not about being 100% something, but that it's just about meeting each other where we are, being kind to each other, being loving, being everything which also is expressed by the food we eat and how we eat it, and to celebrate this one special day, and to really start one marathon of potlucks which goes one time, 24 hours, one time around the world. And so the people can go to worldrawfoodday.org or .com and register their potluck, and there will be many more fun things this year. This year, 2011, I also started to give this day a motto. So this year I decided to take the motto Wild Herbs. I think this is very interesting and very important also, because it's food which doesn't cost a thing. We just have to pick it up. So there's also a lot of fear which is connected by perhaps a fear of starving, or that you can't afford it. It's not about money. I mean, it's okay that people earn money within the raw food movement, totally. But it's also okay that there are people who don't need as much money as they used to, because they're just eating the wild herbs and they feel great. And wild herbs perhaps even beat cancer or whatever, or chronic illnesses and stuff like that. And so, because of the power of the wild herbs, I thought this is the right motto for 2011, that we focus on something very, very, very positive. And it doesn't cost a thing.
Sounds like a great year ahead.
Yes.
So we look forward to connecting with you again and to check back in, and great. Thank you so much for sharing all your inspiration and inspiring so many athletes and everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.